Think I'm live now. Oh, my hair is gone all over the place. It's very windy here. Hi, everybody. Hi, Adriana. Welcome. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us from California. Hi, Susan. Hi, Lornan. Hi, JV. Welcome, welcome. How is it going, guys? Hope you're all having a really, really good day. Just sorting out the rest of my gear, making sure that everything is in the pocket so it doesn't fall off while we're doing this. And I don't know if we're gonna catch the sunset. I'm just looking at this. I thought sunset was supposed to be after our tour, but it's been quite cloudy here recently. I actually thought it was gonna start raining. So I don't know if we will catch some sunset, but if we do, the lights of the sunset here are quite lovely. So it will probably give you some nice postcards. But yeah, hope you're all doing really good. I'm actually feeling much better, Adriana. I don't know if you can hear. I have just a little bit of a itch on my throat, but other than that, I'm much better. I have no fever whatsoever. I'm positively solid on the 36 degrees Celsius in human temperature, which means I'm okay. And yeah, other than I don't have any more pain or headaches, and other than just the slight itch of the cough, everything else is fine actually. So it's it's pretty all right. Yeah, no, honestly, it was just one of those things, the doctor said it wasn't nothing serious, that as long as I was fighting off the fever, then everything was fine. So, I'm cool with that. To be fair, I hadn't been properly ill for such a long time, because I never caught COVID or anything like that. So the last couple of years, other than the fibromyalgia and when I was off with surgery last year, I've been pretty illness free, touch wood. So, thankfully it's nothing serious, but thanks so much for your concern, guys. I'm pretty hardy. I know I don't look it because I'm tiny, but I'm pretty hardy otherwise. But yeah, no, I'm just glad we get to be out again. The weather is much nicer today. I look like overkill because I don't want to, get my throat worse as I'm out here. Well, it's a little damp, but it's actually not too bad. It's about 12 degrees or something like that in Southampton currently. Well, now that dark is coming through, probably a little less, more like 10 or 8, but it's all right. Hi, Elaine. Welcome. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us here in Southampton Ocean Village. Hope you're having a really good day. But yeah, I'm glad though that I'm not bedridden anymore, because that was not fun. I'm not a good ill person. I don't really deal well with being sick, so it's nice being able to just do normal life. I get bored otherwise very easily. All right, and we have just a few more seconds until we get started, so let me just make sure that I pick up everything from this microphone. Okay, excellent. All right, and I'm gonna get ready to stand up, because that wind brings rain. I know that wind brings rain. Yep. I hope we don't get wet, but well, we shall see. Okay, I think we're live now. So, hello everybody, welcome to Southampton. Hope you're all having a really, really good day. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Lilian Cespedes Gonzalez, but please just call me Lily. I have a very long Spanish name. And I'm a historian and tour guide here in Southampton, which is the largest city in the south of England. Southampton has currently about 350,000 inhabitants. In terms of the city itself, the metropolitan area actually goes to nearly 500,000. So we're pretty large. And we are in the neighborhood of Ocean Village. It's actually a luxury marina, and it's one of the most expensive areas to live in this part of town. So I thought I would show you around. We're quite lucky because a lot of the yachts and boats are actually in today, because it's getting dark already and it hasn't really been a day for sailing. So we will get some nice pictures of the marina. And after we're done in the marina, I have a couple of things to show you in transit alongside the edges of Ocean Village, which is the house where the White Star Company used to be located, the house that run the operations for the Titanic, and a couple of other places related to that. Welcome, Gloria and Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're having a really good day. Right. Well, without any further ado, and now that we all know where we are, let me just get up and let's start. let's start the stream properly speaking. Alrighty. Okay. Well, here we are in Ocean Village. As you can see, the light's coming down a lot quicker than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be lighter for a lot longer, but the wind has brought in some cloud cover that may mean a little bit of rain. Hey, Alan, thank you so much for joining us. We're literally just getting started here in Southampton in Ocean Village. So, this is the lovely marina that we have here. It is a luxury marina because Southampton actually has one of the sort of largest and most profitable sailing communities in the whole of the south of England, and well, not just the south, but the majority of England in general. Welcome, Rebecca. Hope you're doing really good. Nice to have you here. So as a result, we have some luxury yachts and boats over here. Sometimes we get some sailboats here as well. I don't think we have any today, though. And other than that, we have lots of new modern buildings that are amongst, like I said, the most expensive properties in the city. This area, though, has a lot of historical background because originally this was actually part of the docks of Southampton. So I'll tell you a bit more about those docks in just a moment. Hey, Hillary, how are you doing? So, guys, this is my friend Hillary. She's a local, so she's one of the members of our lovely community here in Southampton. It's lovely that she's joining us today. Right, so I'm sure that in this frame you guys can see these train tracks that are right here on the floor. Well, the train tracks, as you can see, are obviously not in use anymore. Welcome, Iwa. Thank you so much for joining us. But these were crucial for the development of this part of the city. Well, let me tell you a little story about the docks of Southampton. Hi, Terry. Thank you so much for joining us here in Southampton Ocean Village. Well, so Southampton didn't really have a proper dock all the way until the 19th century. We were just living off the small port that we had, a natural harbor. But it actually took an official act of parliament from the government for us to be able to build the docks. And this was the outer dock that wasn't actually properly finished until the sort of mid-19th century. Now, it would be from this very dock years later, from where the Titanic would actually depart, and Operation Overlord actually gathered all of the resources to go off to Normandy and to the D-Day beach landings. So without those train racks, we would not have been able to have as much of a successful dock development, because it actually allowed the train to get right here to the edge of the water to be able to load all of the cargo that came from the ocean liners that first of all made the port of Southampton the important place that it is nowadays. Most of the cargo that comes to the UK does it via Southampton. As of 2012, we were the most efficient container unit in the whole of Europe. And even to this day and age, and despite the pandemic, we're still capital number one for cruise ships and many other cargo liners in the whole world. So, we have a big reputation in terms of the sailing community and our boating life. Well, hi, Don. Thank you so much for joining us. I am going to take you to one of the sites here where we have a couple of memorials for the war and where we can take some other pictures for the marina, because the angle and the way the light is falling is going to give us nicer pictures as we move around. Now, as you can see, everything else that we have in this part of town is all dedicated to leisure, and this is because this entire part of the city is, well, essentially the most expensive, the coolest part of town. When we are looking at these buildings right here, particularly these ones that are facing the seafront, and that one there on the the penthouse up there where you have, I think someone is in there because there is some light, that can go for literally thousands and thousands of pounds just for rent. I'm not even going to tell you about the property value because it's literally just murderous. But it's very expensive living in this part of Southampton. And in general, in Southampton overall, even though we are traditionally a working class community, over the years, and because we get a lot of spillage from people that have military background that come to retire here, people that move out of London and people that move out of Winchester, we end up having actually quite a lot of wealth accumulated in the city. So as a result, the property prices go up. Thank you so much, Hillary. It's very kind. Well, like I said, I'm just moving us now to a little spot where we have a couple of commemorations for the war. I've just actually realized for the first time that we have some think there are some jet skis just parked over there, covered in there. I've never actually seen anyone taking any jet skis here out of Southampton, but apparently we're branching out. So there we go. Hey, Hayla, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're having a really, really fine day. Right, before I take us to the spot with the commemorations from D-Day, let me give you guys another panoramic view from here, and then I'll do the other panoramic from the other side. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, I'm just going to turn left now. So 1, 2, 3, go. And I don't know if you can see, once I start turning the camera to the left, that the water is actually rippling right in front of us. Well, any local would be able to tell you that the way this water is moving right now is because water, in the sense of rain, is actually approaching. It's a really weird thing. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if any of you come from like a maritime community or somewhere nearby the seafront, but those of us who have spent many years living by the waterfront just know these things. I know it kind of sounds like magic, like wind is change, water is coming, but it's one of those things that you just learn to interiorize, I guess. It's rather useful, or at least it was obviously rather useful back in the day when we didn't have modern technology for sailors and fishermen to dictate when the weather was going to be good and when there was potentially going to be trouble. But that's how I know. It's not because I'm a wizard. It's just I've spent a lot of time living by the seafront. That's for sure. Right. Okay. Well, let me take you here over to the memorials that we have for the Second World War. Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us. Right. Are just up the stairs. Well, one of the memorials is for the Second World War, and the other one is actually for the Australian troops. I don't know if any of you have connections to Australia. If you do, we have connections to Australia here too in Southampton. So the first one is here. D-Day 1944 to 94. On the 6th of June, 44 men sailed from this dock in landing craft and landing ships to liberate Europe. Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Southampton. I would say that the vast majority, however, of men that actually left from Southampton were, although part of the D-Day effort, they weren't all necessarily military. Southampton actually contributed first and foremost, particularly to the administrative and to the associated acts of war. We actually deployed a lot of people working in repairs, working in the medicine units, because we had also a hospital here along the waterfront. So although they did go to liberate Europe, a lot of them were not necessarily fighting members of the organization. But remember that in any army, there's always a lot of people who aren't necessarily fighting, but they're still super crucial to the effort of the war. And Southampton, in that sense, was super important. Unfortunately, and because of this, because of all of the troops that left from here, we actually got quite severely bombed during the air raids of the Second World War, and well, things didn't go very well for Southampton after that. 1940s when the plaque actually was put here, Hillary. So that's the reason why, which would have been, of course, 50 years from the war. And this is to the First World War, to the Australian Flying Corps, which was super crucial, particularly in certain campaigns. For example, in Palestine, they actually left here from Southampton in the Kaiser von Hind. Southampton has always had a strong association with the RAF, because we started creating Spitfires here, and as a result we had also a base and a lot of work done here by the Australian military. So this is our commemoration to that little soiree that was done as a joint effort from both nations. So there we go. If any of you actually know anyone in the AFC or with Australian connections, now you know why we have that link here in Southampton too. Right. Well, I'm just gonna go back down the stairs so we can have a look around the other side of the marina, and then we will move towards the area of where the White Star Company used to have its head office, from where the Titanic administration actually was managed. Now, the building that you see in front of us, guys, the one that kind of looks like a ship, but it's not a ship, is actually the Harbour Hotel. It is one of the most expensive hotels here in the whole city is 5 stars. The rooms that face on the other side go for ridiculous amount of money every single night. However, and I say this 100% in the know, if you ever come to Southampton and you want to stay in a nice hotel, do not stay here. The rooms are tiny and they're actually not very well serviced. So if you want to stay in a nice 5-star hotel, better stay on the ones on the other side of Southampton, near the port, like the Leonardo and the Mercure Hotel, the Dolphin Hotel, than in the harbor. It's great for the restaurant. I'll show you in a moment the jetty, which is really lovely, and things like that. But the hotel itself, the beds and all of that, actually quite average. So that's just a small tip. Welcome, Danielle. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're doing really good. Right. Well, like I said, Southampton was quite severely targeted during the Second World War because of, well, all of our contribution towards the development of Operation Overlord alongside with Southampton. We actually received over 30,000 bombs were dropped here, particularly in the area of the docks, because of course the German Luftwaffe knew how important this area was for the war effort of England overall. So this whole area got turned to shreds. That's the reason why all of the buildings that you guys see here are all new. These are all developed literally from like the early 2000s onwards. It was pretty much just a wasteland. We have documents from the council that demonstrate that more than 300 outbuildings, warehouses, sheds, and things like that were completely just turned to shreds during the Second World War. And the bombs. So that's the reason why we have this very lovely marina built in now. Obviously, this would have looked rather different otherwise. Very industrial and a lot more uglier. So in a way, this kind of also helped us clean the city and the Solent. The Solent is the body of water that comes here into Southampton as the River Itchen goes into the sea. And it was actually severely polluted for many, many years. It still is, to be honest. There are certain areas that you can actually look at the water and things float, not because the water, but because they just do float by accumulation. But it helped cleaning part of the city. Yeah. Hey, Cheryl, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining. And yes, JV, it's unfortunately one of the issues that this city has. When you become such a crucial tactical point, that can have consequences. And Southampton was an absolute trooper during the Second World War. When I moved to this city originally, I didn't think much of it. I thought, ugh, it's so ugly. This is my honest, commentary. I'm not gonna hide that. I thought, oh, it's so ugly, and people in Southampton are always like so stressed, and it just seemed to me really aggressive. And then I understood, all the trauma that was accumulated and all the things that this city and the citizens had to overcome from the Titanic to the Second World War, and even before. It was hard times in this town for a really long time because we didn't have a proper dock. And as such, well, life was hard, and it made hard people that needed to grow and be resilient. Sometimes resilience doesn't come through the same way. Sometimes resilience comes across as, rough and rugged around the edges. But actually, once you get to know Southampton, it has a lot of interesting things that are worthwhile, such as Ocean Village, which is why I want to show you this. And yes, it is a lot of loss in this area. Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's very kind of you. Right, well, this is the entrance to the Harbour Hotel. As you can see, it's very posh. Very, very posh. But I'm going to take you to the very edge of the jetty, which is their restaurant and sort of outdoor sitting area. We cannot go in, but we can have a peep from here. And from the area of the jetty, we get some of the best views of the whole marina as well. So it will be nice to do some sort of 180 type style rotations. Very good. Well, honestly, JV, it was something that took me a long time to understand. But coming from a portuary city with a lot of trauma itself as well, there is apparently a thematic in my life. Port towns with trauma. This is where I grow up. I immediately got it. So as you can see, they actually have it closed off today because there's literally nobody hanging out in here. But they have these very cute pods. In the summer, this is literally such a coveted space. It goes all around the front. And of course, when this lights up at night, I'm sure you can imagine it is actually rather lovely. The view probably is most lovely from here and just from the buildings I'm pointing out right now. Hi, Iwan. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're doing good. Right. Well, I can see that lights are starting to go up and whatnot. So I think this is probably a good time to do some 180 rotations and shots. So I'm gonna start here going towards the left. Okay, guys? I'm gonna count down to from 3 to 1, and we will start rotating left, and then I'll come back from the left to here. All right, let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm gonna get to the edge. Let me know if you want me to go vertical to get the super tall building, so we can do that on the next swipe. Entirely up to you if you want that shot or not. Right. Let's stabilize the image a bit further up. And now we're gonna go to the right so you can catch the other end. So 3, 2, 1, going right now. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm pretty much the only person other than a couple of people hanging around all over this area, which actually that makes it nice. We have the lights coming on now. It actually makes it one of my favorite parts of the city because you get to see these actually rather nice views, or at least I think they're nice. They remind me of home. It's very tranquil and serene. On a glorious sunny day, this is honestly so lush. There's so many places where you can just sit and chill with a book, with a drink, whatever. And it's just actually nice to be in a place that is so lively and beautiful without having to be, in the city center, which can be quite stressful in Southampton, particularly on, well, not so much today because it's a Thursday, but on a Friday or Saturday night. If Hillary is still in the chat, she can vouch for me. Southampton can go nuts, absolutely nuts. So you still get to chill and hang out here without having to go through all of that noise and tension. And because all of the properties here are obviously quite expensive, the type of people that end up coming to this part of town are also quite different. You don't get the same type of crowd. This is a more classy vibe. However, I would say the vast majority of the restaurants around here are ridiculously expensive and not the best places where to eat in Southampton. So again, if you're gonna come, I wouldn't recommend either staying in the Harbour Hotel unless you really want to enjoy the views, in which case, frankly, the views are beautiful, or actually, I'll be honest, the Blue Jasmine, the one that I'm pointing out right now, that one is actually a very, very nice Thai restaurant. It's won a few awards, but prepare to pay a hefty bill. So, it's, if you're coming to it in this part of town, make sure that you bring a large check, because otherwise we may struggle. Hi, Peter. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us here. I'm just gonna take us to the other side of the marina. I actually live, it takes me about 25 minutes to walk here from my current house, Cheryl. So it's not a bad walk, and it's pretty much on a straightforward line because I go down the back of the parks where we've done a few tours, and then around the area where we've done the B side of Southampton, Oxford Street, and those kind of places. So it's actually quite a quick walk for me, which is nice. And I don't have to go through the main city center at all, which makes things easy because that makes everything a lot speedier. For those of you who haven't had a chance to go around Southampton with me just yet, don't worry, because I have several tours scheduled around the area in the next month, so you'll be able to get to know Southampton very, very quickly. Hey, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here. Hope you're doing good. Well, Cheryl, the vast majority of these are privately owned, from the people that live around here, some others from farther afield in town. And, they became so popular during the pandemic because people used them for private parties, because technically it counted as an outdoor activity. So they became like the hypest thing in the whole city. And, people suddenly realized, oh, hey, we're actually surrounded by water and there are things we can do in the water. And they just went crazy for it. It was honestly just such an amazing thing. But they can be, again, quite expensive. They've become now quite popular as well for things like stag doos and hen doos. So you see them every so often, particularly at night. They don't necessarily leave the bay, but they become a hanging out spot for people. Welcome, Christina. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. But yeah, it's a shame that it's become so cloudy, because otherwise here at this time of the day we get some very nice light. But well, actually it has its own charm, and it's true to Southampton. We're by the seafront in the UK. Life is not always glamorous, I'm afraid to say. It's very honest in that respect. Hey Marcian, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining us. Andrea, thank you for being here. Right, well, I'm gonna take advantage that you guys have just joined to give us one last few views of the marina before we get going towards the other side of Ocean Village, where we're gonna see the head office of where the White Star Company used to be located. That were, of course, the managers of the Titanic. So here are the last few views of the actual marina itself. Yeah, well, this is the thing. Although Ocean Village is very lovely now, Cheryl, the striking thing about this part of town that not a lot of people know about is the history, of course. So there we go. I'm gonna do one last swipe to the right. Okay, and now I'm gonna do a 360 or nearly 360. So I'm just gonna go to the left, and after this one, we'll get going. All right, guys. So this is your last chance for some nice maritime postcards. But don't worry, we'll be doing this tour again when the weather is a bit nicer. I will be able to get us sunlight here at about 6-7 p.m., which is nice. All right, okay, well, that is the marina side of Ocean Village, which is definitely the poshest side of town. But now we're gonna have a look at a couple of memorials and at the White Star Company office. Well, this whole area would have been where the warehouses for the docks were located in the 19th century. Currently, the vast majority of them are actually offices, and there's a few other things here, but mostly offices and residential. There is actually a research center for the oceanography team here at the University of Southampton, but that's actually on the far end of the area. Now, the first building I'm going to show you is this white one that is just by the cross lights, which is the Canute Hotel, which is a historical site here in Southampton, which is now mostly derelict, unfortunately. But that holds a bit of a legend in its bricks. Now, before we do that, here in this building before us, which is now a pub, the Admiral Sir Lucius Curtis pub and the ferry house, from where some of the ferry services depart, and you can buy the tickets there. There are two memorials. They're a little dark, but there are two memorials, one for World War One and another one for World War Two. Because, like I said, as this was the docks, a lot of the bombs dropped here, and unfortunately a lot of people died during the Second World War. And on this one, on the First World War, this is actually in honor of the orphanage servants. There was actually quite a lot of people here in the local area that ended up going to the First World War from here, and obviously never made it back. This part of town is very close to the neighborhood of St. Mary's, where we're going to be next week, if I remember correctly. And so next week or this week? No, next week. And St. Mary's has traditionally been the poor part of town. As a result, a lot of orphans and general poor people ended up enlisting because, for them, joining the the army was an easy way of making money, and at the time the country needed soldiers. Unfortunately, they didn't know that they were never going to come back. So it's such a shame to know that a few of the most vulnerable people of this town ended up perishing in such a cruel war. But unfortunately, that's how things go sometimes. Hi, Eliza. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is the one for the Second World War with the bunch of names from the people that unfortunately could not escape the bombings because they were working here at the docks. And as much as it was dangerous, it had to be done. If the operation at the docks was lost, all of the support to the troops that were on the other side of the channel would have been sincerely detrimented. So it had to be done. As you can see, not a lot of people actually lost their lives on the bombs because they kind of saw it coming. And actually the name of people that died properly during the bombings, both in Southampton and in Portsmouth, is rather low compared to the number of bombs that dropped on the city. So we were well prepared for it. It's just, the physical destruction of the city was quite severe. Thank you so much for posting the channel name, Cheryl. It's very kind of you. And welcome, Jennifer. I hope you're doing good. Well, like I said, we have a couple more stops. The next one is this hotel, which is unfortunately, been pretty empty for a really, really long time. This is the Canute Hotel. The letters are there and they're starting to fade. This was one of the most important buildings and hotels in general that were here in the 19th century because, of course, as you can imagine, being so close to the docks, there was a lot of movement of passengers. This was, one of those to-do well hotels. Unfortunately, it just didn't survive the majority of the changes that happened in the city in the 20th century, and it's really gone down the hill since. But the reason why it's called Canute Hotel, and the reason why the next place we're going to see is Canute Chambers, and this road is Canute Road, is in honor of King Canute of England, the first Viking king of the whole country. Now, all of last week and up until now, I've been talking a lot about Vikings. I've been talking a lot about Saxons. So we finally come full circle. And you're probably wondering what's the connection between Canute and the city of Southampton. Well, I don't know if you can see, but between the two windows, there's like a little lettering that you can't see. And even if I zoom, I'm going to zoom just in case. But even if I zoom, I'm not sure if you can read. Well, sports car. I don't know if you can read much of what it says there, but it actually says, near this spot in AD 1028, Canute reproved his courtiers. Well, this is regarding a little legend. I'm just going to zoom out now. A little legend that almost every single coastal town of the south of England between here and Brighton says that is the place where it happens. Apparently, the story goes like this. King Canute, being the Viking king that he was, needed to essentially get in the good books of all of his Anglo-Saxon subjects. So he came to the waters, sat by the shore, put his hand out to the waves, and said, you see, even I, mighty Canute, cannot make the water recede. Sort of trying to convey the idea that despite him being, a king and therefore super powerful, he was still a humble guy and he knew his limits, which was kind of his way of saying to his new courtiers, hey, don't worry, I'm actually here to do good by you. I'm not here to, raid you and destroy the country. Well, let me tell you something. That story is all lies. This never actually happened. I'm going to start moving so we can get to the next stop. But the reason why we know this story and why so many places around the south of England say that this is the place where Canute did this is because this was seen as an iconic moment for political propaganda. Canute knew that he needed to get on the good side of all of these Saxons, so he started writing or getting people to write for him all of these things that he would have done as a nice, lovely king so that people would support him. And it worked. It actually worked, and Canute was actually a pretty decent king for England. For the vast majority of his reign, he did a lot of things to actually improve the country. And people got to really like him, despite him being a foreigner and a Viking, which of course was the big shock. But that's the reason why we have this association with Canute, and the reason why this building that you see here now is Canute Chambers. The name will appear on the screen in just one moment. There we go. Canute Chambers. It's looking a little bit decayed, and the reason for that, unfortunately, is because I don't know if you can see, but the building is actually up for sale. Well, this lovely late 19th century building, all made in red brick, erected actually in 83, I believe, is actually where the White Star Company had its head office. This is from where operations like the Titanic and the Olympic actually got managed from. And this is the very spot where, straight after the sinking of the Titanic, a huge queue of people from here, from these very steps to the end of the street, would have been queuing to find out what had happened to their relatives, what had happened to all those people. Well, we have a plaque here that actually records the event. Yeah, it was honestly quite severe. I'm aware that I have a very noisy bus right behind me, so I'm just kind of waiting for it to move so we can carry on having this conversation. My goodness, that sounds honestly so loud. Well, there we go. This is it, Canute Chambers. This building housed the offices of the White Star Company, owners of the RMS Titanic, and as you can see, after its sinking in Newfoundland on the maiden voyage, it was here with hundreds of local people waited for news. And I don't know if you can see the number there. That's kind of what I really wanted to show you more than anything else. 549. And actually, that number has been amended till recently. We reckon it was actually 469, not 49, were deceased in this tragedy. And you're probably wondering why there were so many people from Southampton that died during the Titanic tragedy. Well, that's because although the passengers for the Titanic were from all parts of the world, this is unfortunately the place where the majority of the crew came from. And when the ship went down, what actually died with the ship was the members of the crew. The majority of them actually worked below deck. Their chances of survival were very, very low. And unfortunately, that meant that, they couldn't make it. Oh, it must be the stress, Cheryl. Pistachios are good for the stress. Well, as a result, we know that it wasn't just people that actually queued here for news about their deceased and their beloved. There was a particularly big issue that I would like to tell you about now, particularly since it's International Women's Day, because it's quite an important issue that not a lot of people know, but I shall enlighten you with. And it's quite sad, by the way. Now, as Southampton has such a big loss of life, the majority of the people that died during the Titanic are men, so mostly, people of working age, and this becomes really a town of widows and orphans. As a result, well, there was a lot of poverty. All of the widows from the Titanic had to actually make a special plea to receive the pension for their husband's losses. We're talking of hundreds of women who were going through life with literally no subsistence whatsoever because of, an issue that the White Star Company obviously had not foreseen. Some of them took years to actually receive the money they were owed in pensions to raise their children and to keep their families safe, which is insane. Think of how important money is for us in this day and age. For widows and vulnerable children at that moment in time, not having access to those pensions would have been devastating. It was a serious big problem, and the queues of those widows were actually the ones that concerned the White Star Company more, because to them that was bad PR. No one wanted, rows and rows of widows at their doorstep claiming that they had A, killed their family, and B, destroyed their means for survival. So this issue of widowhood and how it affected the women of the men that died in the Titanic is something that is currently being researched a lot, because it is perceived as obviously a great tragedy that needed better handling in terms of the social standards of it all. And it's, for some reason, it was actually kept quite hush-hush for many years. So now that a lot of feminist historians are looking into it, they're trying to give these widows and their struggles, a new voice, because this was quite a sentimental process for the city. It generally is, when something goes south, like the Titanic. Well, I know the Titanic wasn't going south, but you know what I mean. And and then you have to even pretty much beg for the money they owe you. It was such a bad blow, honestly, such a bad blow. Well, I'm gonna let this cyclist pass, and I'm gonna show you the last building on this tour, which is this beautiful 19th century house. It's not all gonna fit on a postcard, no matter how hard I try. So I'll give you some of the best shots I can. We're gonna see it from the other side in a moment. But this is the house where the Great Western house for what is currently Southwestern Rail, and this is where the offices for the train company actually were, and where some people actually live. It's a beautiful building. I promise you, the light doesn't do it any justice. And currently, it's all essentially very expensive condos, and I mean very expensive condos. Like, you thought the ones in Ocean Village were expensive. These ones are just as bad because this is a historic building, so it needs to be preserved. Well, the reason why we have this here is because as the dock of Southampton got finished, what we've just seen there in Ocean Village at the sort of mid to late 19th century, they actually realized that the company that was managing the dock, which was actually built by Southampton Council, sort of pretty much overnight, without ever before having had any type of experience managing docks of any kind, they didn't know how to do it. So nearly by the end of the 19th century, it was about to go under. They were losing so much money, so much money, that what was actually a very, very prosperous port was about to be, destroyed through negligence. Right, I need to take a long wait here for this crossing. So let me try and find a good view of the building itself, just so you guys can realize how big it is. Hey, Caroline, thank you so much for joining us. That's how huge it is. Oh, thank you so much, Maggie. You're so kind. I hope you'll enjoy St. Mary's, because it's going to be quite different from this. I must say, for those of you coming to St. Mary's, you're going to notice some different changes from Ocean Village to St. Mary's. Hillary can vouch for me. It's a very different vibe. Well, as a result, the Southwestern Rail Company realized that here there was a golden opportunity for business, because if they actually bought the docks, they could build a railway that will go straight to the docks and straight into their already existing network. So they didn't have to play pig in the middle with someone else, and they could literally just ship the goods that were coming straight from Southampton into their big network and cut their benefits much tighter. So they buy the area of Ocean Village, they create their new dock area, which is the reason why you saw those railways, and they decided to put obviously the head office here because they needed to manage it. I don't know if you noticed, as I was trying to cross the road, there was actually a couple of train signs in there. Part of the network that they created still comes here, only for freight trains, but there used to be a train station right behind Southwestern House in the 19th century, which was super important for the development of this area. Thank you so much, Susan, for the follow, and thank you so much, Lisa, for the tip. So this huge house obviously changed from one end of business to the other. Well, since I have a little bit of time, I think, yes, we're just gonna actually cross up here, so you can see how this area links with Oxford Street, which is where I took you guys the other day for the B-sides of Southampton. So this is one of the many parks that we have. I don't know why the lights are red in this park. This has been freaking me out now for months. One day they were white, suddenly the next day I'm here and they have changed them all, right? I don't know what this is about, but I find it really strange. If someone can tell me why they decided to put red lights in one of the parks in the city center, please. I've been trying to solve the mystery for literally months. It's killing me. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Jasmine, although you've joined us at a strange time of this tour, me trying to resolve unsolved mysteries here in Southampton. So here we have the Grand Cafe building. It's huge. I'll show you better from the other side the size of it. But this has been also here since 1865. And again, alongside with the majority of accommodations in Oxford Road, it was designed to cater for all of those passengers that were going in the cruise ships, not just the Titanic, but, all of the other cruise ships that were departing from here. So I'm just going to get here to the corner so we can have a quick peek at this area. So here we have the casino. And here at the back of the building, you see this iron framework. Well, that was the actual station for Western Rail. And here, as you can see, of course, is the Grand Cafe Hotel and Southwestern House here on the south. And here on the other side, if I just turn around very gently, welcome Sue, thank you so much for joining us. This is where we ended up the other day in Oxford Street, sorry. But of course, everything is a lot empty because, well, it's not quite dinner yet. Well, it's dinner time yet, but it's been a bit of a weird day. It's not really a day to go out. And as such, here in Oxford Street is where I'm gonna say goodbye to you guys. But actually, I'm gonna give you a nice view of the London Hotel because it looks quite nice today. And it's one of the very few buildings that has tiling here in Southampton that still survives from the 19th century because the bombs, remember, were not dropped here. So it still actually looks like what most pubs in Southampton would have looked back in the day, which is quite precious. So, and in the summer, if I do this again in the summer, which I will, they actually have lots of flowers in the front, which is lovely. But, well, obviously winter still, so not quite the case. So this is the end of our tour here in Ocean Village and the Marina. So I'm just going to turn the camera around. Thank you so much, guys, for having joined me today. Thanks for having coped with me, by the way, all week with my illness and my throat. I hope my voice wasn't too bad today. Like I said, I've been working hard to recover. But anyway, that's all for today. So thank you so much for being here. Hopefully, I'll catch you at some other point. I have 2 tours tomorrow. One of them is actually my monthly fibromyalgia awareness tour. So if you're interested in that, I'll see you in the evening. But I'm actually doing a brand new tour from Athens. That is a pre-recorded tour of something I couldn't show you there, which is Philopappus Hill, which I think you guys are really gonna like. So I hope to see you there, and you will get some of the best views of the Acropolis from home. And then on Sunday, if you're interested, remember that we'll be in Salisbury. So hopefully I'll see you then. And if not, no worries. I'll catch you at some other point. Have a lovely day and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.